You'll get all the segments there. No waiting. And thank you to Fwanky Tappelson for helping out today. Not Frank. That's not a typo, right? No, Fwanky. All right.
Frankie Brittany's cousin.
I was going to say something like that.
Frankie come out and he said, hello, I would like to help with the video live stream.
Is Brittany's last name is not Tappelson, is it?
Brittany Tappelson.
Brittany Tappelson.
Tappelson.
So Fwanky, because you would pronounce his name Fwanky.
Frankie.
It's spelled, I'm looking right at it, spelled Fwanky.
Brittany's spelled Brittany. B-W-I-T-T-A-N-Y.
Oh, it is? Oh, all this time I thought it was a speech impediment. I'm so sorry. Oh, the name's Whitney.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been on this show for like 3 years. You don't even know me.
Right. I got to say, I'm still picking up a speech impediment of some sort there.
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not like if somebody were to say both or, woof. Right. But,
Goff.
Goff, Some people just hate L's. What are you going to do? I'll have Dragon Force tickets for you in about a half an hour. If you dig that band, they're back on the road this spring. They're going to play the Agora in April. I'll hook you up to see the Cavs game later on, too. Bill Burr is coming to the Romo Fijo, so if you're trying to get to that show, I will hook you up. If you listen to us on iHeartRadio from outside Ohio, tell me where, or the far-flung corners of Ohio. Randy is a bureau chief in Germantown, Maryland. Brandon listens in Bedford, Michigan. Sonia is up in Schenectady, New York. And Kristen is a new bureau chief in San Antonio, Texas. Cavaliers are off tonight. They lost by a couple of buckets last night here at home, 110-106 against the Grizzlies. They'll play again West Coast on Friday night. So it's going to be a late game, 10 o'clock tip-off against the Trailblazers in Portland. Who's the name on the Trailblazers?
Damian Lillard.
Okay. Is he the guy from SLC Punk?
No. That's Matthew Lillard. They're cousins.
He's the guy that played Shaggy, right, in the Scooby-Doo movies?
Scoob.
Damian Lillard. Did Rajon Rondo play last night, by the way?
No, he did not.
He didn't.
He was on the bench, but he had just gotten into Cleveland. Mm-hmm. So he'll make his debut on Friday.
He dropped his stuff off at the hotel and went over to the... Yeah, right. Threw his uniform in a duffel bag, dressed, and then rode the pine for 4 quarters.
I think he was just in street clothes.
Oh, he was? He wasn't even dressed?
Right.
Ah, okay. So he didn't even want them to give him a look and maybe tap him on the shoulder to get in there.
He hasn't been playing a lot for the Lakers, so they're using the next couple days of practice to get his conditioning up a little bit because
so he remembers how to play basketball?
Yeah. Well, just so he can play basketball and not get gassed out.
Yeah, because weren't the Lakers like, we didn't really want him for a playing position. We wanted him to be like a guru in the locker room. Hasn't he transitioned into that role? That's got to be great when a team picks you up and goes, we don't want him so much for playing.
But there are players like that, and they will stick around the league for an extra 2 or 3 seasons because they're good locker room guys.
And they get paid.
Like another coach, yeah. I mean, Vince Carter did that for a few years. I mean, he did that for more than a few years. James Jones, who was on the Cavs, he wasn't playing a lot, but they wanted him on the roster because he was such a good leader. So those players do exist.
Tristan Thompson has proven himself to be invaluable with the Sacramento Kings in the locker room in teaching the younger guys how not to get caught.
Don't do what I do.
That's right. Do what I say, not what I do. I loved how Tristan Thompson had to wait until the paternity test came back to finally cop to it.
And then post on his
Instagram.
you
knew you left it in.
I talked about it on my podcast.
You're talking about how this lady, she's lying and, personal trainer.
That's what I'm saying.
Here comes the test. I guess because there's always a 1% chance it is somebody else's kid.
But so
you're gonna deny it until it's unequivocal.
I don't even fault him for banging hoes. I'm sure Chloe doesn't even care at this point. I think they just have an agreement. Don't leave it in. Don't make me look stupid.
Well, then why is he so...
He's still leaving it in and making her look stupid.
That's what I'm saying.
But why is he so publicly apologetic then?
Because I think
if they have an agreement...
I'm not saying that they do, but I can see Chloe. I think she probably just wants to have a united front for her daughter. I don't think that she went through hell with Lamar, so I think this time she's like, I want to be different. I have a child with you, so I'm bonded with you for life no matter what. So I might as well, listen, if I need,
she knows who he is.
Yeah, you're saying, if I need a 4 a.m. booty call, he's there. He's also the father of my child. Just please be respectful. That's what I see, because every time they report,
I'll tell you what.
He's like, best I can do is booty call.
but I feel like he is just deliberately doing things, because every time they break up, or every time it's reported in the news,
Every time he wakes up, he cheats on her.
But I'm saying every time it's reported in the news, there's like, oh, they were on a break at the time. I'm like, how many damn breaks did they have?
If he was focusing more on the booty, he wouldn't find himself in this predicament. Boy, Lamar Odom, you can take the guy out of the game. You can't take the game out of the guy. Once this guy sees an opening, anytime Tristan Thompson is publicly apologizing, Lamar Odom puts out some statement about what a great gal Chloe is.
We're talking about a crackhead.
Oh, man. Well, he has substance abuse issues, Poundcake.
If Whitney Houston was a crackhead, Lamar Odom's definitely a crackhead.
Whitney Houston is not a crackhead.
You called her a crackhead.
I called her a dead crackhead.
No, you said she was a crackhead.
Yes, she's a dead crackhead, though, so she doesn't care what I say.
Lamar Odom's a crackhead, then.
So harsh.
He has no sympathy whatsoever for people who are in recovery. Lord knows how he talks about our own Mary Santora when she's not listening.
Cody.
I just think you were a lot more fun when you drank. I liked you better.
So did my sister.
He liked you better when you drank. Uh-huh.
I feel like she wouldn't be crying
You
all
know
the time.
all the times you and Poundcake were
Please.
hanging out?
Talking about?
I
You cried way more.
uncontrollably.
Yeah, she.
At the drop
Oh
of a
my
hat, I
gosh.
was crying.
Yes, but it was funnier
That's
when
why
you were
when
drunk.
people were around Mary,
Now we have to feel sorry for you.
Now I'm crying for actual real reasons.
that's why when people were around Mary, they were always making sure that their hats stayed firmly on their heads.
Do not drop that hat.
Do not drop
I
it.
will cry.
Don't drop the soap if you get inside, and don't drop your hat around Mary.
They say don't cry over spilled milk. I cry over spilled hats.
Yeah. Spilled hats.
Don't spill your hat.
That hat's on the ground.
Spilled it.
This one's almost touching the ground all the time anyway.
That sloppy hat ain't going anywhere.
What I'm saying is, it's basically on the ground no matter where it is.
Alan, I changed my Google Assistant voice to an Australian accent years ago because I think it's hot. And it wasn't until listening to the podcast that I realized that it's Aussie Mayor is my assistant voice.
Aussie May, hey, what do you need me to reorder off Amazon?
Well, he said, add Miracle Whip to my shopping list. Aussie Mayor here, I have added subpar mayonnaise to your shop. You son of a bitch, Ben. There's nothing subpar about Miracle Whip.
Miracle Whip is trash.
It's the tangy zip.
It's trash. It's salad
Mayo
dressing.
blows.
It's not mayonnaise.
Huh?
It's technically salad dressing.
Yes, it's not claiming to be mayonnaise because mayonnaise sucks.
You suck.
Eggs
Quarter
and
bagel.
oil. Ugh, whatever.
bagel.
Quarter bagel. That's my new nickname. That's my gamer tag.
You-
AC
QB.
quarter bagel.
Yeah, you suck, quarter bagel. I'm out there playing Call of Duty.
Dip your quarter of a bagel into some Miracle Whip.
No, I'm very judicious with the Miracle Whip. I don't slather it on. I don't like anything
course.
slathered.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll give it kind of a thin patina on my sandwich, enough to taste, but not enough where it overpowers the sandwich. I want the tangy zip.
Right.
I don't want it punching me in the noggin.
Okay. What type of sandwich are you adding Miracle Whip to?
A turkey sandwich.
Okay.
Yep. A turkey sandwich, a couple of pickles on there.
Yeah.
Perhaps some pepper.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I love. Post Thanksgiving are those turkey sandwiches.
Yeah.
And then you'll slice some olives on it.
Oh, there you go.
Turkey sandwich with some Miracle Whip, some green olives, a little bit of pepper. Oh, my God.
Good to
Eat those
go.
for days. But again, you know, sandwich, it's a lot of bread.
We know how you feel about
And
bread.
we're back to a lot of bread. We're back to a lot of bread.
Shut up, quarter bagel. So anyway, thank you, Ben. Aside from your slight against Miracle Whip, he's noticed that Aussie Mayor is his Google Assistant voice now.
She needs more practice.
It is funny, you know, we tell people to listen to the, you know, hey, your smart device can bring up iHeartRadio on it, which is absolutely true. But I was reading a thing where they were like, they're going to have to figure, it's an extraordinarily small group of people who own those things. Like we have a couple of Amazon Echoes in our house just because when my agent was alive, like 2 years in a row, he gave me one he'd give us stuff for Christmas every year. And 2 years in a row, that's what he gave us. I guess maybe he didn't keep track or whatever. So we have like 2 or 3 of these Alexas in our house. But I was reading that they've kind of, the usage of these has really peaked. They're like 95% of people who have these ask it what the weather is, what time it is, or they listen to music on it, right? Or like a show like this. But they sell them to you like, oh my God, it's connected to everything. Your
gonna do
thermostat.
everything,
You
yeah.
can and it can do all that, but they're like, there's very few
People aren't using it for that.
Right. So they're like, we got to figure out. I mean, they're still, over the big picture, they're still in their infancy as technology, but they have been around for a few years.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, for a while, everybody was scooping these things up. But, you know, it's like when I bought a new laptop a few years ago. Oh my God, I go, I need a new laptop. Well, I need a laptop. I didn't have a laptop. So I go, I'm going to buy a top-of-the-line MacBook, but I'm going to be doing all this stuff on it. I don't use it nearly as much as I thought I would.
I am the exact opposite.
Or I use it for a few things. Well, you're probably doing a lot of video.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to up my video game for 22.
Well, I had an old, like 2009 Windows laptop that was so slow and just took forever to do anything. And now
One of those
it's
thick white ones.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
black, but
Yeah.
yes, this thing weighs 15 pounds.
Yep.
It's so heavy.
I think we have one of those somewhere in our house that
Yeah.
Gwen used to have.
But now that I have my MacBook and I have an iPhone, it's just so easy to take and transfer things between the two. And I use that MacBook every single day. I
Yeah.
love it. Oh, I love it.
I use mine all through the show.
But then, you know what, though? The core things I'm doing on the laptop, I've just added in video editing, and it has made it so much easier. But still, the only things I really do on my laptop outside of that is update my website, check my email, and journal. Those are like the only,
Journal.
It's like the only things I
Guys,
do.
I'm journaling.
I do.
I've never understood journaling.
Just to get it all out of your head.
It makes it real when you put pen to paper.
When you can see it,
That
it
I
makes
get.
it better.
Does it?
Yeah, honestly.
To me, it's always seemed like a very tedious thing.
Well, you don't
But you're not a
have to
paperwork
do
guy.
it.
I don't do it, but I'm saying like I remember being told that this was like an important thing, or like in the past, like if you just do this, it's gonna help. And then I do it and be like, yeah, it doesn't. It's just like homework to me. It doesn't make me feel better. It makes me feel worse.
And you shouldn't feel obligated
It
to
makes
do
you feel
it.
worse.
You were probably in a situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were probably having relationship issues, and this was
No, this
suggested
is like
as a way.
as a child,
Oh.
people telling me that journaling was important.
What was
and
happening
stuff.
that people were
Right.
suggesting you journal
They're
as a
just-
child?
They're just saying it's a good habit to get into.
Who was
And-
saying this?
It was like people at church. Like they always encourage people to keep journals.
They wanted
And
you to
it-
write down your impure
your
thoughts.
sins.
Yeah.
But even that, I wouldn't write down. I'm like, I'm not giving them hard evidence of the things
Yeah.
that I'm thinking up
In
here.
Catholicism, we had
Yeah.
confession. You just
Yeah.
sit on the other side in a booth
But it
and
wasn't-
go,
it wasn't
I
even
had impure
confession.
thoughts, Padre. What do
It
you
was
want from
just
me?
to keep a record of your life. And
Yeah.
they thought that was a good thing, and I was just like, I didn't do anything.
I started regularly journaling in 2017 when my wedding got called off and I lived on my own for the first time. Is when I started journaling. Like back then, it was like daily, but now I'm probably once a week. Just honestly, for me, just to get everything that's happened. If I feel all over the place, to get it all out of my head and on paper. And honestly, when I go back the next week, I'll usually reread my last entry.
You go back and read it.
Sometimes, if it was like a particularly emotional day, I'll go back and I'll giggle sometimes. I'm like, none of this even matters. 7 days later, none of this is real.
Listen, it's so different than an old school diary.
Yeah.
I remember my mom had stacks of diaries. She had the old school tiny diary with the lock.
Yeah,
Like it's
that
Ocean's
tiny little
11.
lock.
Like anybody's going to, But my mom, I don't know, I should ask her if she still does it, but my whole life growing up, my mom wrote in a diary every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my grandma's kept
And at
journals
some
for
point, we're going to
years.
find these diaries.
Mm-hmm.
I was having this conversation with Gwen. I don't know how we got on the subject, but I was like, the worst thing. Oh, I know what it is. Somebody got our daughter a little diary.
Yeah.
Right? And it has a key and a thing or whatever. And she was like, so she would be in the other room writing in it, and she's almost 6.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she's drawing pictures
Right,
of
so,
cats.
yeah,
or,
it's
or
just smiley
writing her
faces
name.
and
Yeah,
butterflies.
whatever. But the question was whether or not we were going to read it, and we were like, absolutely not. That's your
Yeah.
private stuff, whatever. And I did mention that there's nothing to gain ever by reading someone's diary.
Right, or their
One
journal,
time I
yeah.
read a girlfriend's diary, and I was horrified.
Well,
She was talking about
because-
you.
Yes, I was immediately like demoralized, and we were in like kind of a rough patch. And so in my mind, I go. She was at work one day, and I go, you know
This'll
what?
give me some inside
yes,
information.
I know where it is. This is going to be useful for me. I was a grown man. I should have known. I was already divorced. Like I should have known. Well, journal. I mean, journal feels like the grown-up word for
That's
diary.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
So I was worst mistake I could have possibly
Well,
made.
for
Because you
people-
can't unsee that
You
stuff.
can't unsee it, and you also need to understand that a lot, or at least for me, 99% of my journaling comes from a very emotional place, and it isn't permanent. It's just that I need to get whatever's going on in my head out of my head to clear space.
And not for
Otherwise-
someone else's consumption.
Well, and that, but like sometimes even I'll go back and read it, and the things I say, or I'm being so dramatic where it's like small problems are such a big deal, and I'm like, if someone were to read this, they would think I hate them, or they would think whatever, or whatever
psychotic.
whatever I'm talking smack about in that moment. God, I can't stand my best friend. She's such a bitch. Why does she always have to be like, you know what I mean?
That's the kind of stuff you have to write.
No, but I'm saying
But, like,
there have
I mean,
been
like,
days
but-
like that, yeah.
And it just sits in your head like that.
When I get fired up about something and I don't really know who to talk to about it, or
Why don't
if,
you just calm down?
yeah, that probably should help.
Why don't you smile more?
No, but getting anything out, like I journaled yesterday for like an hour because I hadn't, and I got through my first, just going over.
See, that would get me fired up.
Going over like the first round of holidays without my dad, and how this is going on with my siblings, and how my relationship, and maybe, and you know, all these different things, and just to kind of get it out and see it on paper, you can kind of assess, is this really a big deal? Was I just being emotional? What of these things do I actually need to revisit in therapy? You know?
See, when things aren't around, I don't think about them.
Out of sight, out of mind is what they call
yes,
that. I believe.
I very am. When if things aren't happening to me in that moment, it doesn't really weigh on my mind.
You're
at
not
all.
concerned about what's going on in your loved ones' lives or their state of happiness.
Bill's
or-
kind of
Not
like
at all.
Bill's kind of like a parakeet, where
Not-
something's
not-
not
honestly-
in his vision.
Not at all.
If your sister was having a rough time in her life,
Which she has had.
you would just be like, sucks to be you, man.
I mean, I feel bad. I'm like,
But
hey,
it doesn't
that's
preoccupy any space in your life.
No.
We're different people.
very different.
Everybody's problems preoccupy space in
See,
my life.
I was raised, I don't know if it's a religion thing, if it's a conservative, but you grew up conservative religious too.
Yeah.
We all did, right?
I think it's a personality thing.
It probably that too, but I grew up more along Bill's line there too.
Mm-hmm.
Where my parents, I love my parents. We did not grow up in an especially empathetic household.
Neither did we.
And it has been a severe detriment to me as an adult that I am not known to be a particularly empathetic person because we grew up like, it sucks. That's the world.
Yeah,
Something's
well,
going to
that's
happen.
how my
There's
parents
also-
were.
And you got to plow through
Yeah.
it. And, you know.
And, my kids will have problems and I'll help them with them, but it's not something that I go, and this is something I feel like I've learned over the years. I don't feel like I've always been this way because it used to weigh on me a lot more. But as they've gotten older, I go, yeah, that's, what can I do to help you? And I'll do whatever I can to help them. But I'm not going to let it sit on my brain and completely ruin my day.
It doesn't
Doesn't
preoccupy
that it ruins
you.
your day or my day? It does take up space.
But
my
it
loved ones'
doesn't for
lives
me.
take up space in my brain, in my emotions, because I want everybody to be happy and have a good life. And when they don't, I think about it. What can I do? How can I help?
Well,
what can I say, or
The
what can I
reason
offer?
that they're not having as good or as a happy life is because they didn't listen to what I said. So that's on them.
Well, there you go.
It's because they made Jesus mad
You're
at some
probably
point.
never wrong then, huh?
Right. But also I would think that the way you
I-
think of it, I would think that it would be more beneficial to have those conversations with those people.
I
than
usually journal after I do.
so you have a conversation with another living person and then you write about it in the journal.
And then the way that I journal is to figure things out, because it's hard for me to just figure things out in my head.
But there's no end point either. So you're always going to be journaling about something. To me, it seems like it
Yeah.
would be, if it's supposed to be like therapeutic, you would hope that there would be some kind of, there's a point of entry. And so you hope there would be kind of an exit point too. But
Well, there have
there's
been-
always going to be something.
Well, that's why you journal, to keep that stuff, for me, to keep that stuff out of my head so I can focus on other things in the day.
I like it to be finite.
Yeah, see, like I'm already focused on the things that I'm going to be focused on. So, say something's going on in my oldest daughter's life, I will, like I said, I will be there for her.
You can compartmentalize better than I can.
Much better, yes.
I am not good at that.
That is not even. It's just I got to do this. Like, so when we're
Yeah.
at this job, and I tell them, they know now after years and years. I've been on the show for 9 years now. not to message me about some bull crap before the show. It'd be like 1:30, be like, oh, I'm like, no, after the show.
You guys might not think this is work, but it is work. Alan, I've done an audio journal since 1984. How Orwellian. Yeah, me too. It's called a radio show since 1995. I find it ironic that I've never kept a daily diary, but now that I don't have a gallbladder, I do have daily diarrhea. I see what they did there.
I have a bad case of diarrhea.
I have a bad
diarrhea because you don't have a gallbladder anymore? I don't know anything about the gallbladder.
I think it filters something.
All right. Clearly doesn't filter the diarrhea.
I'll put that in my journal.
There you go.
Things I learned.
All right, I got to take a break here. If you want to get a text for anything, 35192. Otherwise, I'm going to have Dragon Force tickets for you on the way back. Remember them? They're playing the Agora on April the 6th. So if you want to see them do their thing, I'll have a couple of tickets after the break.
It's the Alan Cox Show.
Everywhere on our